Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And I had to talk about this little ditty here today. So, yesterday, we celebrated 30 years of my favorite show of all time, Seinfeld. So I haven't really talked a lot about it here on this channel. I also don't make a lot of references to it, but if you follow me on social media, I post about it a lot. It's probably the funniest show of all time. It will never be surpassed. There's other shows that I enjoy, such as Big Bang Theory and a few others, but Seinfeld was like the perfect sitcom. It ended at the right time without being, too much of something. Like Big Bang Theory went on way too long, but Seinfeld, it's relevant. People are still like this today. People that were displayed in the show, certain personalities and characters, and a great majority of the episodes come off as true classics. And I don't believe there will be ever a show where I've probably seen the all the episodes dozens of times and can recite most of the lines and the scenes in the order in which they happen in each of these episodes. So you're talking to a really big fan here. But of course, CNN, and this is CNN Entertainment, but it's still CNN nevertheless. They always have to ruin everything. And CNN comes out with this story just to rain on everyone's parade, of course, right on schedule. Yesterday, the, well-timed, the anniversary of Seinfeld. So let's get everyone upset. And this is what's so weird. It's like someone gets paid to write a negative article about a show that's 30 years old. So, instead of, writing an article that is, fun and entertaining and something that people would enjoy and Seinfeld fans could appreciate, and maybe Seinfeld fans would actually come to CNN's website and read the article and enjoy it and celebrate Seinfeld, just as I am. And, of course not. This Sandra Gonzalez has to come along. She has to write an article and upset everybody. And, you might be asking, well, Brad, why do you even fucking care? Right away you read the title of the video and you already know that you're going to be, pissed off about it because someone's saying something negative about one of your favorite shows. And, it's a pretty big platform, but hey, we're making a video here, folks, right? So, if you think this type of topic could be easily avoided, you're right. But I wanted to talk about this anyway and just show you how it's just so stupid. Why even write an article like this? Why does CNN let this girl even write an article like this? Why, if everyone's celebrating something, does Sandra Gonzalez have to come along and be the party pooper? Let me talk negative about the show. This is why it's stupid. Let me go on to tell you. So let's read a little bit of this. I was always more of a Friends person in the World Series of Series, known all over the world. Friends would be my most valuable player every single time. So this is the thing that I have to say. And it brings me back to an old job, where we didn't have a union. The store manager told us, that there was a union that was trying to come in there. And people were interested in this. So they held a meeting with and they were calling us in by groups. And the manager says, well, I don't really know a lot about unions, but I'm going to do my best to talk about them here today. And they went on and they lied about unions and lied and said that unions don't protect people's jobs and stuff like that. So the thing is, what I was joking about with a lot of my coworkers is, I'm like, if she's saying that she doesn't know a lot about unions, right there, you should just discredit everything she has to say after that, right? Everything that precedes that statement should be considered, just completely moot and unacceptable, and just a non-factor in anything that you're going to try to form an opinion on. So, she's basically saying that he's not a fan. So she said, this is the disclaimer. I've always provided to people. And I'm going to tell you guys, I've read this whole article prior, but like this paragraph right here, it doesn't even make any sense. Did you ever like let me just read it to you. This is the disclaimer I've always provided to people when someone makes a reference to Seinfeld in my presence. In the same way, a sign that reads, "Warning, toxic algae in bloom," will stop a bunch of tourists from running into a lake. Telling someone that you like Friends as they tee up a joke they once saw in a Seinfeld episode is a clear signal to abort the mission. It saves the attempter from having to explain their joke, which is awkward for everyone, and the receiver from having to force out an insincere laugh. I hate journalists like this. Sometimes they write like, I don't really want to say this is a run-on sentence, so like, some parts kind of are, but it's like a really long-winded paragraph, and like, I don't even understand the idea that she's trying to communicate here in this paragraph of the article. Like, she's talking about, you know, making a Seinfeld reference in the presence of a Friends fan. But, like, isn't the topic supposed to be about Friends? So why would they make a Seinfeld joke? You ever do that? Like, read an article, read it like a sentence, and you're like, what did I just read? Well, that's, like, right there. It's not just me. It's not me processing the information. It's because she's a bad writer. It's pretty much what it is. She's a bad journalist that doesn't really know how to write clear and concise thoughts. That's the problem here. Everybody wins. Everyone wins. That is, unless you're me, and unless that conversation is with your editor about the 30th anniversary of Seinfeld. Suddenly, my trusty ticket out of a conversation about TV I don't want to talk about became a ticket into an assignment revisiting some of the show's classic episodes as someone who has not watched a lot of Seinfeld. So why are you writing this article? If you're not a fan and the point of this article is to talk about 30 years of Seinfeld, why did they assign somebody who's not a fan of it to write about it? Like, I'm sorry, that is like why I have to say this, like, as a fan of the show, about being such a massive fan of the show. Why is someone on a major platform like CNN writing an article like this if they don't know anything about the show? And they're telling you right away they're not going to enjoy it. They're going in with a bad attitude. I never had anything against the show in particular, other than I was simply too busy to be bothered to watch a show famously about nothing when there was so much TV out there about something, and Friends on Netflix. Like, Friends was about something, it was about a group of friends and their relationships and the different stories involved. Seinfeld was a show about nothing, but each episode had a plot. That was kind of a joke because it didn't really have like one central idea. It was just the events in these characters' lives, but each character had personality, so it really was about quite a bit. It's just kind of a tagline. That's kind of like reading a little too deeply into something, which is pretty much par for the course for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And she's even stating that she isn't going to know what she's talking about because she doesn't know anything about the show. For my mission, I opted to revisit 6 episodes, considering among the show's very best, according to my fiance, CNN critic Brian Lowry, and a lot of internet lists. As a rule, I did not seek any subsequent information on the writing or production of these episodes prior to watching them, in some cases for the first time. Great TV does not need an oral history or additional context. For example, the knowledge that it was in some way considered to be groundbreaking for one reason or another to be enjoyed. And that is a paragraph that I can definitely get on board. Make room on that canoe because I agree with that statement. And that's something I agree with a lot of movies and with a lot of shows, and especially with music. People talk about, like, this album or this movie was great, and then when you sit down to watch it, you kind of feel like inclined, like, I'm supposed to be enjoying this. This is a classic, but I got over that a long time ago. And, there's just, especially when I also notice this quite a bit, like, with music. Like, it used to be like when someone would used to like say that a band was terrible, I wouldn't even bother listening to them. I write them off right away. Like, I've talked about on this channel before, Asking Alexandria, you know, but I've got over that shit a long time ago, and I've now learned to just go my own way, like Fleetwood Mac, and just, you know, just listen to what I wanted to, and give everything a fair shake. So anyway, let's continue. The verdict: revisiting Seinfeld is a bit like eating a piece of cake from King Edward VIII's wedding to Wallace Simpson. So, okay, so, you know, she's being a little clever there. It's delicious because it's cake, but when you get to that butter-based frosting and realize that the television landscape is one big, poorly ventilated English basement. So that's a clever reference to the episode where Elaine takes the cake out of the cupboard of Jay Peterman, her boss, in that episode, and eats the cake. And then she learns that it wasn't a good idea because it's, you know, it's a very stale cake. You have to see it if you don't know what it's about, but she threw that one in there. So that kind of proves that, like, they want Seinfeld fans to read this. They want them to get fired up. They want people like me to make videos about it and, you know, whatever, or and vlog about it. So, you know, so that's what I'm doing here, right? I bit into it hook, line, and sinker. I explain more below. Note the opinions expressed are solely those of the writer. You are invited to respectfully disagree, but if you want to call her names, congratulations on living up to her extraordinarily low expectations for masters of the web comment domain. So she's like referring to herself there in the third person, I suppose. Like, that's not annoying. So, okay, I've read through these, and a lot of these episodes, yeah, are classics. I never really put together a top 10 list. Maybe we should do this here on this channel. I don't know if you guys, if enough people watch this video and comment, I suppose I could do that in the future. Like, put together like a top 10 list. Anyway, let's see what this goofball has to say about the episodes. The Puffy Shirt, Season 5, Episode 2. Of the classics I watched, this one made me laugh the most. In this classic, Jerry accidentally agrees to wear a shirt designed by Kramer's low-talking girlfriend and is ridiculed because it makes him look like a pirate. I'm a sucker for a sight gag, and it doesn't get better than Jerry looking defeated in that white frilly rag. That's a pretty good way of explaining the episode. She did do it justice. This episode gets bonus points because George's hands get Kentucky fried, and I don't like him. Points are all gone right there because we want to talk about bonus points. Talk about losing it. Like, George is like the whole show. Without a doubt, my favorite character on the show. He's based on Larry David, for anyone who knows. And I mean, right there, if you don't like George Costanza, there's no point in even continuing on with this article and watching the show, because many of these episodes, many of the funniest parts are based around George and his interactions and his stories within the episodes. Anyway, let's move on. Soup Nazi, Episode 7, Episode 6. This is one of the greatest. It's a lot of people's favorite. It isn't my favorite, but it definitely would be if I probably had to say my top 5, maybe. This episode was such a struggle because the main storyline involving the icon known as Soup Nazi was truly hilarious and remains a perfect comedy gem. But a subplot about a grown woman who enjoys being spoken to by her significant other in a manner and tone one might use when communicating with a small, fluffy, four-legged creature left me annoyed. We'll get to this in a moment. In the episode, they call this behavior a schmoopiness. I call it the reason people finally got tired of only 45-year-old men writing television. Okay, so, like, right away, like, poorly explained, poorly done. I understand this is supposed to be just, very brief little, like, tellings of her, like, thoughts. It's more like a blog than it is an article, but anyway, so, like, in the episode, Jerry's girlfriend likes to be, you know, baby talked, and, like, I think, like, Jerry's not too crazy about it, and George starts doing it with Susan, and they start doing like the baby talk and everything. But it's like, I love how the girl writing this article, she's like offended by it. What's her name? Sandra, yeah. She's offended by it, like it's like annoying to her. Like, okay, like I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like in Friends, like wasn't there an episode ever like when anyone ever baby talked? And it's not like something that was a long running thing. Like 45-year-old men writing television. So okay, I don't know if Larry David worked on this season of Seinfeld. He actually did not work on it up until the end. He didn't work on the last few seasons. So I don't know if he left the show at this point. I think he was still there. I'm not 100% sure. But nevertheless, it's like, it's a classic episode. You're even saying that you enjoyed it, but you're also knocking it too because, like, they don't, like, go overboard with the schmoopiness in the episode. Like, so I don't even know why that's a factor. It's like she's really digging for things to hate about Seinfeld. Anyway, let's move on. The Invitations, Season 7, Episode 24. This episode has the single best line of all 5 episodes I watch. Now I know what I've been looking for all these years myself. I've been waiting for me to come along, and now I've swept myself off my feet. This line, recited by Jerry, was self-aware and perfectly delivered. And I greatly agree with this. She did a horrible job explaining it, as you're going to see in the next few lines here. Basically, what the episode was about is that Jerry finds a girlfriend that is exactly like him. And basically at the same time, George wants to get engaged, and Jerry decides to do the same thing. And then at the last minute, Jerry calls it off, and they claim that they had a pact. So, any fan is kind of familiar with this. So I don't know why she didn't even explain what the whole point of that line was, but I agree with her. That was a classic line, and it was very well delivered by Jerry. The downside of this episode is that where a show like Friends would have allowed the characters a moment of humanity when George's fiance died, Seinfeld just let the band play on to the show's deterrent. I get it. These 4 people are not great people, but are they people at all? If not, do I want to watch? Are they not people? Like, okay. If you're going to sit there and say that, like, George and Kramer are not people, Elaine is not people, then you're not even watching this at all. Like, you just said, like, Jerry with the line. Like, do you not see, like, that, Jerry is like self-centered, and that's like the whole thing kind of with him in a way? The way how the characters are, like, okay, like, you're comparing. The problem she has is she's comparing it to Friends. It is a totally different show that you can't even really compare. The creators were going for totally different concepts here. Seinfeld was going for something that a sitcom never did before, and that is why you can't really say it. Like, of course, with Friends, they went more for those, like, pulling at your heartstring moments, when the breakups happen. When the breakups happen, it was funny. It was meant to be laughed at. But when it happens in Friends, it was actually supposed to be more meant to be emotional. And that was sort of the thing. They'd play the slow, sad music when something unfortunate would happen. Here on Seinfeld, the whole joke is that the band parades on. That's kind of the whole thing about it. It's, they're kind of parroting what you're used to, or the normal human would react in a situation like that. That's kind of the whole thing. Because George got stuck in the situation with being engaged to Susan, And so that was the whole joke, that he was stuck in that relationship, and that, he cheaped out. He got cheap envelopes. She licks the envelopes enough times, and she ends up dying from the toxic glue that's on it. And so this is kind of like an out for George. He didn't have to call the wedding off. Like, he was trying to scheme and come up with different ways, like trying to smoke cigarettes and, do all sorts of different things to try to turn Susan off so she wouldn't want to marry him. And, that was kind of the thing. She passes away, and George is now free. And now it's like, now Jerry was stuck in the relationship with the girl that he's engaged to now. So it was kind of like payback. George goes like, well, well, hey, what can I tell you? So it was like, because then Jerry had broken up with the girl when he got engaged to Susan. Jerry was going to get engaged to a girl at the same time, and but she ate her peas one at a time. That bothered him. So it's just like, you just don't know what the show's going for. You don't get the idea of it. The Opposite, Season 5, Episode 21. This was the best written episode of the ones I watched. Yes, this is a very, very good episode that I definitely recommend that anyone who has not seen the show or is trying to get into it to watch. It centers on George learning that in order to succeed in life, he must do everything he normally would not do, like not lie, or if he was me, watch Seinfeld instead of Friends. So, okay. So, she got through that one. She got the zinger at the end. Bravo. The Contest. This was, it's a classic episode, Season 4, Episode 10. If you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, Shaquille O'Neal says that this is his favorite episode. I've never been, too crazy about The Contest. It's a good episode, but it sure as hell is not what I would consider one of my favorites. I definitely would not put it in my top 10. Probably not even my top 20. I just don't know. There's funny parts to this episode, but it is not one of my favorites. Anyway, they say the brilliance of this episode is about masturbation, and the word is not said once. That's actually a good point she has. I have to say, out of everything she's written in this whole article, that is a really good point. That is part of the joke, and they did it successfully. Also, it might have had something to do with maybe the network not wanting them, the NBC not wanting Larry David to use the word in the episode or any of the actors, but I don't know. Maybe that was the joke. I can't confirm. But that is actually something to actually commend them for. It is sort of a funny, cute way of looking at things. Brilliant is not the word I use to describe the rest. Gross, absolutely. Particularly George timing his visits to his hospitalized mother so he could watch a female patient in the neighboring bed get sponge bathed by an attractive nurse made my stomach churn. Of course it did. Of course it did, because it's not like, that's a common thing to see a man, attracted to an attractive woman in any movie or TV show. It's not like any of the characters on Friends did the same thing. It's not like Joey Tribbiani, who was the womanizer character on there, like a semi-Charlie Sheen of sorts. You weren't disgusted by any of his actions on the show. That's what doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Or you're saying that show is, you're basing a lot on Friends in this article, saying it's so much better than Seinfeld, and we should all be Friends fans because it's so superior. And then there's so many contradictions, but you won't bring that up there because you're a fan and you're not a fan of this. The character didn't just age poorly; he turned into old Melisandre from Game of Thrones. Okay, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, so I don't know what the hell she's talking about there. I understand that I'm not supposed to like George or Kramer's people. They're probably the two most popular characters on the show that many people love. Why would you not like these characters? If you didn't like them, Why would you be watching the show? Like, why do you think people are fans of Seinfeld? These characters were created by the actors who played them, and Larry David and Larry Charles, because we were supposed to like them. Unless they're supposed to be villains, like in a movie, like, then, okay, so that would be the thing. Like, you would probably supposed to dislike someone like Newman or someone who opposed the characters on the show. But, like, all of them are supposed to be likable in their own way. That's why almost all the characters in a great majority of the episodes, almost all of them have become iconic in some way, shape, or form. So, I don't know where this line came from. Anyway, but when 50% of the main cast is entirely so unlikable 100% of the time, I have trouble justifying the viewing time. So, okay, the stupid thing about this is that you just don't like the concept of the show. You don't like it. You never liked it. You're more of someone who would go for the Friends sort of show. So, like, but don't say like that you're writing this from the perspective that like they're supposed to be unlikable. Whoever said that? Whoever said that was the mission statement when creating the show, they're supposed to be unlikable? That's your opinion. See, I think you fuse that together, your opinion being fact. So, Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the best part of this episode. Made me wish someone gave her her own. Oh, right, she was going to say show, but she did. And it was the New Adventures of Old Christine. The Frogger, Season 9, Episode 18. This is a great episode. Not sure where I would rank it particularly, but anyway. The episode might be named after a reference to George's mission to rescue a beloved Frogger video game machine from a closing pizza place, but the real star of this story is Elaine. Her plot takes place mostly within work, where she's trying to navigate the office's over-celebratory culture. She's sick of pretending to celebrate promotions and birthdays and farewells and tired of cake. Yeah, this is a pretty good side story, until that is she has a craving for cake, walks into her boss's office and eats a pricey piece of sponge that she must quickly replace. And that was the cake, and that's in the poorly ventilated English basement. There's a surveillance camera moment in which Elaine is seen dancing on screen with the priceless pastry, and it hits you upon rewatching that Seinfeld's anniversary is really just the anniversary of Julia Louis-Dreyfus cementing her status as an American treasure. So, of course, one of these, Looney Tune, SJWs is going to say that, oh, it's the woman who's the best character. And I'm not going to defile the great name of Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her legendary, iconic Elaine Bennis character, because, she deserves as much credit as any of the other three on this show, because there wouldn't have been a Seinfeld without her. She was a great character. She recognizes that, but she's only getting praise because, this is CNN, and the person writing it is a female. So of course, it has to be the female character getting the praise. I don't like the show, but at least it had a main character that's a woman. Well, God forbid it. George is the, the chauvinistic pig and everything. And it's like, okay, so like, we're not allowed to portray any men, having any type of like perverted thoughts about women, because that there's no way that like that's not a realistic thing in real life that a great majority of men go through. It's not like that's something that still goes on today. It's like I mean, I am just so sick and tired of articles like these, guys. Like, and then you're gonna go ahead and you're going to make a whole entire article about it and time it just when the anniversary comes out, just so you can get people like me all worked up and pissed off. Well, there's the article, and I'm not like pissed off at it, whatever. It's an article. you're not making me second. Like, first of all, the arguments to dislike Seinfeld were so weak. Like, really, Sandra, if you were getting people to like rethink their fandom for Seinfeld as like one of the greatest shows of all time, you failed miserably. You did a horrible job explaining these episodes and why they're iconic and why they're great, and explaining why these things are funny. Like, you even mentioned, like, look at your messy paragraph that you even put together in the beginning of the article. Horrible writer. Like, this is what pisses me off. It's like, okay, a lot of these journals really don't make a lot of money, but they pay people to write. Like, she got paid to write this. Even if she got paid $5 to write this, that is too much, because this is a poorly written, bad article. It like has no good points. It's worthless. It does nothing. It has no like good evidence to prove why Seinfeld. Like, when I read this and the title, I thought that they were gonna say like that Seinfeld is like outdated because it's a show from the 90s. So I thought they were going to point out all these things where, like, you know, people are fans of Seinfeld today. I figured there was going to be a few SJW jabs in there, and I was correct. I was correct as could be on that notion. But, like, I thought they were going to do more with this. You know, at least if they got more SJW-y, it would have been more relevant. And they did get pretty SJW-y, but it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. Actually, like, it would have been more fun to read if it was from the social justice warrior perspective, like more heavy-handed shit, but it wasn't. It was more just like a really bad article about someone who was like being forced into writing an article that they didn't even want. And I don't even get that. I don't know if maybe the editor thought, like her boss thought, like, hey, let's get someone to watch Seinfeld that doesn't like Seinfeld, since so many people like Seinfeld. Ha 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 ha. Like, just a terrible idea. Like, that might have been funny if maybe they got some popular comedian to do it, or someone who's proven to be funny, or someone who's, I don't know, a good writer. Like, anyway, guys, so video's going a bit long. Hope you enjoyed it. Just, you know, wanted to have some fun at someone's expense here, and I did so here on the channel today. Hope you all enjoyed. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all the notifications when I post all my new videos, and I'll see you next time, guys.